Good afternoon, viewers of the Smart blog on the Smart Company Growth website. This afternoon we have with us Adair Whitmer of the W Partners Marketing Group. And Adair is sort of like the non-agency agency. And welcome, Adair, and maybe you could get started by explaining what the hell that means.
Oh, wow. Okay. I will try to do my best on that. I've worked in agencies for a number of years. And I sort of have started to detest the whole model because it is so flawed. And so I formed an agency calling myself the anti-agency simply because several things exist in my agency that cannot exist in a traditional agency. For instance, I only use specialists. So that doesn't happen in a traditional agency ever.
Give me an example. Could I stop you there? Just give me an example. Sure. Talk about a specialist.
Sure. Yes. When you work with a traditional agency, they may say they do PR, but they very rarely have a PR specialist who specializes in, for instance, building products. They are generalists. When I work for a building products company, I will use only talent who has familiarity and a specialty in that area. When I put together a team of people for any of my clients, everybody on the team is an expert in their area, and that means I believe that specialists are people who do media are specialists in media. People who do PR are specialists. People who do branding, people who do research, people who do training. Those are all specialties, and it's tough to go to a traditional agency and get a high level of talent. So I only use specialists and expertise talent, and I only pay them when I need them. So they're not here under my roof being paid because if they were, they wouldn't probably be a high enough caliber person to do a really good job. So I only specialists.
It's interesting that you mention it and you talk about it this way because, and this is one of the reasons that you and I are talking and we sort of click together, because my business operates the same way. I call it a virtual model. And in my case, the specialists would be in different functional areas. Like you're a marketing specialist, okay? But you even drill it down within the realm of marketing. You talk about industry specialists. In this case, building products is the example that you gave me. Or a particular type of manufacturing or automotive. So you would go get people with industry expertise and then hire those folks out on a contract basis. So they're not on your payroll, and your brick and mortar is the brick and mortar that I see behind you is your office, which is the same as mine, a virtual office. Would that be accurate?
It's very accurate. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I love that model. I think it's a great way to go. So we've got We've got a little bit about the W Partners. We've got and about what you do and sort of your business model. Let's talk about marketing. I know a little bit about internet marketing and search engine marketing, and I'm getting a lot better. I've gotten very good on LinkedIn and some of these things. I suck on Facebook, but there are certain things that I'm getting better at. But traditional marketing. Mix of print, mix of media, these are things that are unknown to me, and a lot of my listeners and readers probably don't know a lot about this either.
Right.
What do you think are some good ways to go in getting started, or in understanding if you've got a appropriate mix, or you and I have talked offline, and one of the things that you do is you have found a way to tie some performance of your marketing into bottom line sales. And I know when I've hired marketing agencies in the past, I've struggled with that because a lot of times the answer is, well, you just know that your brand is getting exposure out there, but you don't exactly know how to track it. And that becomes very difficult. So maybe you could get into that a little bit for us.
Okay, sure. I love this discussion, and you and I talked about connected. And I go to the sales funnel. We all hate the sales funnel, but it's a good example of where we begin when we talk to a customer. And I really do come fundamentally from a sales background. So as a salesperson, I like to be sure that things are measurable. And to the degree that we can do that, everything that we propose to a client ties back to the sales funnel and the different areas in the sales funnel. We sit down with a client and we'll say, how effective are you at the top with the brand awareness? How effective are you in the middle with driving preference? How effective are you with taking advantage of word of mouth? And many of them really start to fall down, and that's where traditional agencies don't play, and that's where oftentimes companies, when they do their marketing, they're not really examining every area of the sales funnel, which is to drive sales. So at the end of the day, each area of those sales funnel and every tactic that comes out of trying to increase the effectiveness of the sales funnel really needs to be tied to some sort of measurable tactic. It's very difficult to do because it means that if you're working with the dealer channel, they're accountable to send in reports, and it becomes very difficult. But with internet stuff, it's a lot more measurable today than it has ever been. So I say, hook up with somebody and make sure when you have a conversation with them that you are saying, how are we going to measure the effectiveness of this particular tactic? And that needs to be the first question out of the gate.
You know, the internet thing does make it very easy. You have pay-per-click and things like that, and there are different strategies that you can use that I'm learning. I'm learning how to market with articles and things like that. So I'm populating the internet with lots of content. But there are ways to do that, and there are people who do it real well. You mentioned something here, which to me would be very difficult. You said word of mouth. And I've always been fascinated by word of mouth marketing and reputation marketing. And could you name just maybe one thing that a company could do to measure its word of mouth effectiveness?
Yes, we just recently, within the past 6 months, proposed to a client how to do word of mouth marketing with their existing customers, and it's complicated. I mean, it usually involves an internet promotion of some sort. But let's just use a what if. For an example, what if everybody who bought, I'm going to use kitchen cabinets because that's one of my clients, what if everybody who bought a kitchen cabinet would blog about it and we somehow linked it to the home web page? What if that same person who was doing a kitchen not only blogged about it, but they would make sure all of their friends knew about it because they posted it on their Facebook page? You start to build a network of people who are passionate about a particular brand and have them spread the word, and in return for something that they will get as a result of their loyalty to the brand. There's a lot of social marketing opportunities that didn't exist even 5 years ago that we can engage those people in and connect them using web marketing and social marketing.
So, there's no guilt factor at all in this. You're promoting somebody to talk about something, about a brand. They already feel passionate about it, but things being what they are, it sounds to me like people would not have a tendency to go out of their way to do something, and maybe your firm, the way you might operate, might help them to explore that or see the light in doing that.
And I always go back to, let's not just talk amongst ourselves. Let's really talk to the people that we want to engage in this kind of activity. So research is huge to me. Knowledge is power. I'll often sit around a boardroom with many clients and my agency partners on whatever piece of business we're working on, and we'll have great ideas, but really at the end of the day, it's about the person we're trying to affect. So, to talk a little bit about the word of mouth, I would engage in conversations with a couple of these homeowners that we're trying to help spread the word and find out what is the most meaningful thing for us to do to get them to want to be engaged with this kind of a process. And then I would map out a plan from there. Well,
it's not exactly smoke and mirrors, but it's certainly a little bit more complicated maybe than the average people. There are so many different tools. There's so many different things with Facebook, Twitter, something I just got on recently, and you and I connected on the tweet machine. So there are some different tools out there. I think I'd like to have more of these conversations with you and get in and drill down even deeper on some of this stuff. In the interest of the time for the blog here, I keep it to about 15 minutes. Do you got anything more for the good of the order, for one more thing that maybe some small business owners could walk away with?
Boy, you know what? I go back, I guess, to my model. When I don't have an answer, I seek a specialist. And now, going on the web to vet talent and find people and networking through other individuals who might have a similar need is the best way to find a specialist. But I believe you really get better results when you're working with the highest level of talent in one particular area. And nobody's good at everything. And that's why I bring in a variety of talent. I'm the first one to admit I don't know